I woke up to drawers slamming like someone was tearing the house apart. Lena stood by the closet, raking clothes into a blue roller bag like the place was on fire. No yelling, no tears. Just fast, practiced movement. She wouldn't look at me. "What the hell are you doing?" She zipped the bag halfway and said it like a meeting was ending. "I'm doing what I should have done years ago." My mouth went dry. 23 years, and that's how she said it. I sat up, heart banging, and asked, "Where are you going?" She paused just long enough to say, "I need to breathe," and then added fast, "It's not about anyone else." Bull. I'd been ignoring the signs like a coward. Second phone she kept face down, late nights at strategy sessions, little pauses when I asked how her day was. It all waved in my face like red flags I'd refused to read. Now, I was living inside the alarm I'd tried to sleep through. I grabbed my laptop off the nightstand and stumbled downstairs like I was drunk. First thing I checked was our joint checking account, $214.66. Then savings, zero. I opened the $529 we'd been feeding since Miles was born. That number should have been 68 grand, maybe a little more. Zero. 3 transfers, all done 2 nights ago. While I was out coaching Miles's rec league, I called the bank, got a polite woman with a headset and a script. She told me Lena had full access. The transfers were authorized, she said, like she was reading a menu. My hands shook while I stared at the kitchen wall. Miles sat at the table eating oatmeal. 12 years old, legs too long for the chair now. He looked up and asked, "Dad, you okay?" I lied. "Mom's got a work trip." He nodded like he swallowed it, but it didn't go down easy. Then he just kept watching me, spoon halfway to his mouth, like he knew something I didn't. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. Lena rolled past us with the suitcase. She didn't look rushed, just done. Her hand landed on the doorknob, then she stopped, looked at Miles for maybe 3 seconds. "You'll understand when you're older," she said, then looked at me. "Don't make this harder." Then the door clicked shut. Not slammed. Just a soft little sound that landed louder than anything I've ever heard. I stood there useless, like furniture. Then Miles rinsed his bowl, dried it, put it away, and looked right at me. "Dad, don't worry. I handled it." I almost laughed. He was 12, but the way he said it, flat, steady, no drama, it made me stop and listen. And for the first time, really hear the quiet. He said it like it was obvious, like any 12-year-old could just track a betrayal and build a case. "Dad, this is my future. I'm not going to let anyone take it without a fight." Then he stood up, set the empty glass on the dresser, and went back to his room like we hadn't just cracked something wide open. The house got strange fast after that, empty and loud at the same time. Her coat still hung on the hook. Her mug sat in the dishwasher. Every time I passed it, I'd get hit by a wave I couldn't name. Grief, rage, I don't know. At night, I'd pace and refresh accounts like I was waiting for a high score to load. Then I'd sit on the edge of the bed until the alarm told me to pretend to function again. Miles moved like nothing touched him. Same schedule every day, like the old train sets he used to build when he was 6. Bag packed by 7:05. Out the door by 7:15. No missed steps. He kissed my cheek, asked about dinner, did his homework at the table. All normal. But the nights had a hum to them. This soft, rhythmic tapping coming from his room. Not wild like games, not clacky like texting. Just steady, controlled. I told myself it was schoolwork. Told myself that was just how 12-year-olds typed now. On Thursday, I was folding towels when the tapping stopped. A second later, it picked up again. Faster, tighter, like rain on metal. I called my sister, Paige, finally said it out loud. "I don't know what the hell I'm doing." She didn't say, "It'll be okay." She said, "Be gentle with yourself and get a lawyer today." Upstairs, the keys clattered like thunder. I stared at the ceiling and tried to believe it was nothing. That night, I brought him chicken noodle and apples. Miles said, "Thanks," real calm, and closed his laptop like he was tucking in a secret. His desk was too neat. Planner open dead center, pens squared off, textbooks stacked like he was staging a photo shoot. Everything had its place, except a single corner of thick paper sticking out from under his U.S. history book. Next day, I was putting away laundry when that same sheet had slid out more. I didn't mean to look, but I did. It wasn't homework. It was a printed email thread between Lena and someone named Austin Reed. Full names, full-time stamps, meeting times, hotel names I recognized from her conference bookings. Phrases like, handling Brent when the time comes. My name. Like I was a burden to be scheduled around. My hands went numb. Footsteps hit the stairs. I shoved the page back under the book, but it was too late. Miles stood in the doorway holding an empty glass like it was a prop. He didn't look shocked or scared. He just watched me, like he was checking to see if I'd figured it out yet. "Where'd that come from?" I asked. He walked in, sat on the bed, and rested the glass on his knee. "Mom's not good with passwords." Then he told me more than I could process. He'd known about Austin for 7 weeks. He'd known about the money the day before she left. He hadn't said anything because he wanted to be sure, wanted proof. "I didn't want to accuse her and be wrong," he said. But I wasn't wrong. He looked older when he said it, not tired, just clear, like he'd crossed a line and couldn't go back. "Dad," he said again, eyes steady on mine, "it's my future. I'm not going to let anyone take it without a fight." And then he stood up, left the glass behind, and went back to his room like he had work to finish. The door clicked behind him, then creaked open again 30 seconds later. Miles came back in, holding a spiral notebook like it was sacred. He pulled the mattress edge up with one hand and slid the spiral out like a magician revealing a trick. "This is everything." He sat cross-legged on the floor, opened the cover, and started walking me through it like it was a science fair project. First page, just a title, timeline, dates, arrows, short entries written in sharp block letters. Second phone sighting, text thread trigger, guest room login, 5:29 balance drop. Pages were taped up with screenshots, bank logos, snippets of browser tabs, even zoomed-in timestamps. "Mom uses the same root password for everything," he said. "Her last name, my birth year, exclamation point. Sometimes a $sign if work required it." He flipped a page. Printouts, full-page screen caps of Lena's tablet browser, emails never signed out, cookies untouched. "She never cleared anything," he said. "I'd wait till she was at work. Open, screenshot, close." My stomach twisted. It wasn't pride, it wasn't shame. It was a feeling I couldn't even name, like the kid had grown up in a tunnel I didn't know existed. He turned another page. Photos. First one was from the hallway mirror, Lena standing in the bedroom doorway holding a second phone. Same day she told me she'd forgotten her charger at work. Next page, texts between her and Austin. One of them called me provider panic and joked about managing the optics. There were calendar invites for off-site reviews and reference to a trip tagged shoreline closings. Then he opened a folder on his laptop labeled financials. Inside were transfer receipts. Bank to a brokerage firm under a shell name, Cove Point Holdings. 3 jumps, 2 days before she walked out. Same day I was at Rec League with Miles. "Here's the routing trail," he said, pointing to spreadsheet rows and a mapped-out IP log. She used her tablet, guest room Wi-Fi. All sessions match her device ID. The room got smaller. "It's not just the 529, he said. He clicked another file. My full name popped up next to a loan application for $245,000. Mortgage in Brunswick County, North Carolina. Tiny lot, few miles from a golf course I'd seen in an ad once. Then I saw it, Miles's name, his social, tied in as part of a family trust used for income verification. "That's identity fraud," I said, my voice cracking. He nodded once. "I know." I sat down hard on the bed. "I didn't move anything," he said, calm like a mechanic explaining an engine block. "I documented everything. People talk big, but data ends it." He opened a folder marked countermeasures. Fraud alerts already filed with all 3 credit bureaus. Our credit frozen. ID theft affidavits pre-filled, waiting for signatures. A formal complaint to the State Attorney General's Consumer Office, templated and ready to send the second I signed it. Every link, page, and step laid out like a battle plan. Another folder, Read Investments, Client Harm. Turns out Austin wasn't just a strategy lead. He worked in portfolio services at a mid-tier firm with real clients and real money. Miles had tracked public disclosures, matched them to doctored quarterly statements from the firm's site. Austin had side pockets for friends and family, Basically fake sub-accounts to mask balance gaps. He's hiding losses, Miles said, masking them with manipulated variants and made-up invoice dates. I couldn't even find words, just stared at him. He kept going. People are predictable, he said, voice steady. They reuse passwords. LinkedIn gives away where they work. Property records show mortgage co-signers. If they paste a graduation year or their kid's birth year into their logins, the door's open. He said he'd tested everything on dummy accounts, built his own throwaway profiles, learned from forums, learned fast. Then came the punch I didn't see coming. He showed me the mortgage portal. Conditional approval had flipped to review hold because he'd submitted a fraud report with clean evidence. Next, he opened a draft email, addressed to Austin's firm's compliance department. Attachments included screenshots, transaction logs, file hashes, even browser data from Lena's sessions. A second email sat queued up. This one flagged anonymous tip. It was addressed to the firm's biggest client, a retired teachers fund with over 6,000 members. Everything was referenced by timestamp, client ID, and form discrepancy. There's more, he said. He pulled out 3 certified mail receipts. He'd sent letters to the North Carolina HOA, the county recorder, and Austin's alma mater, where he served on some donor board. All factual, no threats, just receipts. I'm not trying to scorch earth, he said. I'm putting the truth in rooms where it can't be ignored. I told him none of this was his job, that he was 12. He looked up, nodded, calm as ever. It's my name on that loan, Dad. Then he added, almost quiet, I use 9 layers to shield my identity for every report. I'm not a vandal. I'm a witness who doesn't want to get hurt twice. And then he closed the folder, stretched his neck like it was just another Thursday and said, You hungry? It was a Tuesday at 2:11 when my phone lit up with Lena's name. I had dishwater up to my elbows and that old stupid hope bubbling in my throat before I could stop it. I answered. Her voice came through tight, pitched higher than normal. Brent, something's wrong. My cards aren't working, the bank locked my online access, and HR pulled me into a meeting about an anonymous complaint. She said it like I was still her fixer. Miles drifted into the kitchen right then, set his notebook down, flipped open his laptop. Calm as ever. No rush, no drama. He didn't speak, just watched. On the other end, Lena's voice shook. I heard keys tapping, then a sharp breath. They're saying Austin is under review for client issues, she said. This is some witch hunt. Who would do this? I wiped my hands on a dish towel and said, If any of it's true, it's not a witch hunt. Silence. Then came the deflection like she'd practiced it in a mirror. You're not a finance guy, Brent. You don't know how these things work. Miles's screen blinked open with a line of windows I couldn't begin to understand. He tilted it slightly so I could see. Her second email pinging, followed by a red warning across the top. Security alert. Account access suspended. Another call buzzed in. I recognized the number from Miles's printout. Austin. I didn't pick up. Lena's voice broke rhythm. She kept talking, words tumbling like she couldn't catch up. We just need a week. Brent, can you wire what's left of your bonus to my account? I need to prove liquidity. Just until... I let out one laugh, dry as sand. Lena, our accounts are dust because you vacuum them. She switched tones like gears grinding, fury, then pleading. Then she went low. For the love of Miles. That one landed. I flinched. Miles didn't. He reached out and took the phone from my hand like I was holding something burning. He pressed it to his ear and said, Hi, Mom, in the exact tone he uses when reminding me the oil change is overdue. Her voice cracked. Baby, oh my God, baby, this isn't what it looks like. Austin and I had a plan. We were going to put the money back, twice over. Miles didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. You drained the 5 to 29 on March 12th. You checked into the Holiday Express that night. The mortgage application was filed March 14th at 2:09 a.m. The trust document was uploaded with a forged signature from Dad's old W-2. I watched him rattle off the truth like engine parts. I froze our credit. The mortgage is halted. Austin's firm has all the proof. There was nothing but silence on her end. Then she snapped. You can't be involved in adult matters. Miles didn't miss a beat. You involve me when you use my social on a loan. I heard Austin's voice in the background telling her to hang up. A chime hit on Miles's screen. He glanced once. That's Austin's email. 1 second later, Lena sucked in air like she'd been punched. Who was sending my father a packet about all this? Her father is old school, believes in firm handshakes and pressed collars. He's obsessed with appearances. Hates public mess. Miles had mailed him a packet 3 days earlier. Clean summary, labeled exhibits, notarized affidavit. No commentary, just facts. And right then, Lena understood this wasn't gossip. It was documentation. Permanent. Her voice spun out. She begged. I was suffocating in this marriage. You never saw me. Austin gave me something real. He made me feel alive again. Miles let her go until the noise ran out. Then, quiet and even, he said, Mom, you could have asked for a divorce. You didn't have to steal. And he hung up. Then he closed the laptop like he was putting away a sandwich, stood, grabbed his notebook, and walked out of the kitchen without looking back. The next morning, I called the therapist Miles's pediatrician had recommended, Dr. Keating, family trauma, and gifted kids, his specialty. He had a calm voice on the phone, no overreaching empathy, just a clean appointment slot. Miles walked into that office like he was checking in with a school counselor. Shook doctor. Keating's hand sat down and told the whole damn story, start to finish. Straight facts, tight phrasing. He sounded like a 28-year-old financial analyst until he said 8th period halfway through. Dr. Keating asked how he felt. Miles said, relieved, like he was calling out the weather, then added, angry when I think too long, and finally, focused. Like he was watching dials in a cockpit. The doc didn't say much, but his eyes tightened at the corners. After Miles stepped out, he said some kids armor up with control, and that it's not always pathology, it's sometimes survival. That landed harder than I expected. Later that week, I sat down across from a lawyer named Corinne Delgado. Small office, full folder wall, zero fluff. She got straight to it. We filed for divorce, motioned for temporary orders, and requested a full freeze on any accounts tied to my name. She asked if I had documentation. I slid her the prep folder Miles had put together. Her paralegal flipped through it, let out a half laugh. I wish every client came in this prepared. We spent 2 hours tightening everything down. Corinne didn't sugarcoat anything, said Lena's use of Miles's identity might trigger more than just family court action, depending on what the lender decided. At home, I let Miles build out our budget, just a basic spreadsheet, my municipal paycheck, rent, groceries, utilities, auto insurance. He plugged in figures like he was running a household already. You don't need Hulu Plus, he said, half smiling. He also told me to move the truck note due date to align with payday and check with my union rep about legal aid coverage. Felt like admitting failure and winning oxygen all at once. Dr. Keating asked to keep seeing Miles weekly. Said I should join the last 10 minutes of each session. So we did. He also told us to create one normal goal each week. We picked dinner at the diner on Fridays, catch in the backyard on Sundays, even if the yard was a mess. Miles nodded like it was a contract and opened his phone to add it under a list labeled stabilizers. Routine went to the top, just above monitor credit reports monthly. One night after therapy, we got home, and Miles handed me a paper from his folder. Dad's part, it said across the top. 4 tasks. It started with a Google Doc. Title was plain as drywall, Family Digital Safety, Basics for Normal People. No fluff, no fear, just steps. How to build a password that doesn't suck. How to freeze your credit. What forged docs actually look like. Where to click on a bank site to see device history. How to talk to a fraud rep, word for word, so you don't get shoved into the please hold abyss. He showed it to me one night after dinner, said, think the PTA'd want this? I said, they'll freak out if you say data breach in the first minute. He grinned. Good. That means it's working. The PTA president reached out the next day, through me, of course, and asked if Miles would present at their next info night. He agreed, with one condition, webinar only. He didn't want to be a sideshow. That night, I sat in the laundry room with my earbuds in while he ran the session from his bedroom. Steady voice, clean slides, no mention of us. Just straight-up examples, flagged email phrases, what it means when your bank login pings from another state, why shared logins are a bad idea no matter how much you trust your spouse. 3 days later, I got texts from 2 dads I barely knew, Both had found little withdrawals, new savings accounts their wives hadn't mentioned. One of them called it a wake-up. Miles shrugged when I told him. "Good," he said. "That's the point." Word spread like it always does when something actually helps. Quiet, fast. A week later, a reporter called the library where I picked up a couple weekend shifts. Asked if I knew anything about an anonymous packet that helped expose a mid-level investment fraud. I said I didn't know anything useful and hung up feeling rattled. Miles didn't flinch. "They can't trace anything back. We didn't do stunts," he said. "We did facts." He built a website. Basic colors, simple layout, nothing fancy. Watchyourlines.com, one checklist, one request form, that was it. "A teeny bit of guidance," it said underneath the banner. "Rate, $85 an hour. Also a button for can't afford it, start here." And he kept 5 free consult slots open per week. In the first month, he helped 7 families, locked down a bunch of accounts, walked a grandma in Kansas through getting back 11 grand. Her nephew had skimmed from her IRA. Then came the email from Sentinel Hearth, some corporate firm with a youth pipeline. They used a lot of calm language and even more dollar signs. Full ride to any state school. Guaranteed job after college. Starting salary, $135 a year. He read it twice, thanked them, and said no. "They want to own the tools and sell fear," he said while we were sitting in the truck. "I want to give the basics away and sell the time it takes to walk people through it." He kept working, low and steady. One night, between algebra homework and taking out the trash, he spent 30 minutes on the phone with a kid in Indiana whose dad had opened a credit card in his name. Walked him through how to speak to a counselor. Gave him 3 phrases to use with the bank. Afterward, he poured a bowl of cereal and looked up. "You want to go throw the football?" We did. Under the streetlight. Until my arm gave out, and he still wanted one more throw. Austin got suspended first. Miles showed me the firm's site. His name gone from the directory. Then a PDF from the State Securities Board popped up in a public filing. Just the start of a review, but official enough to make your chest tighten. We didn't hear from Lena, but her dad sent a stiff letter asking for documentation. Formal tone, return receipt requested. Miles had mailed him a clean packet 3 weeks earlier. No narrative, no anger, just labeled evidence in numbered sections. Dr. Keating said, "Sometimes you have to let distance do the work. Let accountability find its own way through the dark." Corinne, our attorney, filed an injunction locking down any debt tied to my name without my signature. Every time the mail hit the box, I still felt that flash of dread, like a snake might jump out of an envelope, but it didn't last as long. In early spring, the judge granted a temporary order. Assets frozen, accounts flagged, separation formalized. No one cheered. But when I walked out of that courthouse, I stood taller, like I'd stepped out of a trench and could finally see the road ahead. Miles kept building. His site drew slow, steady traffic. Nothing viral. Just quiet clicks from people who needed help and didn't know where to start. He spoke at a regional cybersecurity meetup through an encrypted video call, username mcall, no camera, just slides and his voice. Told a room of grown adults that most damage in families doesn't start with fraud. It starts with silence. People don't talk about money until it's already broken. "You don't have to be a wizard," he said. "You just have to be consistent." 3 people messaged afterward to say they had frozen their credit that afternoon. One night while I was doing dishes, he leaned against the counter and asked, "Do you think Mom regrets it?" The plate slipped in my hand and banged the sink. "I don't know," I said. He nodded like he expected that. "I've been checking her posts," he added. "Just quotes about growth, starting over, nothing about us." Then he said, "Regret looks like feeling sorry for yourself because consequences finally arrived. Understanding is different. I don't think she has that." Then he walked off and started prepping his homework like it was just another night. He turned down 2 more corporate offers. One wanted him to license his templates. Another wanted him for a teen founder feature. He kept his rate the same and added a free resources page, password tips, identity protection checklists, a fraud response guide with plain English instructions. One case hit hard, a contractor in Ohio trying to help his mom. Her grandson had siphoned 27 grand from her IRA. Miles walked them through it, start to finish. Even found the right recovery form, buried in the IRS site. They sent him a thank you card with a Polaroid of the grandmother holding a white dog in her lap. Miles stuck it on the fridge with a magnet shaped like a traffic cone. At night, the typing was still there, light, steady. But something shifted. He started doing normal things on purpose. Joined me under the truck while we changed the oil. Taught himself to bake cornbread that didn't fall apart. Played HORSE in the driveway with Liam from down the block and didn't even care when he lost. At his next session, Dr. Keating asked how he felt. Miles said, "Less watchful." That word stuck. I wrote it down. The legal part didn't explode. It moved like a slow machine you hear before you see. Austin took a deal. Misuse of client funds. No jail, but enough shame to stain his LinkedIn for life. The firm paid back what they could, then posted a statement full of regret and compliance speak like they were sorry they got caught, not sorry they let it happen. The mortgage in North Carolina never closed. The lot got listed again and sold to someone else. From what little we know, Lena's new apartment is across town, smaller than our old garage, no shared yard, no guest room. In court, the judge flipped through the stack of exhibits our attorney handed over. Most of them were things Miles had labeled and cataloged. I watched the judge's jaw tick once when Corinne explained the 529 theft, the forged trust setup, and the mortgage attempt using our son's social. Orders followed, fast, clean, financial separation, debt pinned exactly where it belonged, a clear restitution clause if and when there's anything left to collect. Miles didn't gloat. He went home, finished his math homework, updated his site, and checked in on the refund status for the Kansas grandmother. He said, the point was never to hurt anyone extra. It was to stop the damage and make the record true. I believed him, and I believed he'd carry that line in his pocket long after I'm not around to remind him. On a warm Friday, we grilled at the county park. Liam's dad wandered over with a half-warm six-pack and a cheap cigar he didn't light. He gave me a handshake a second too long and said, "Your kid helped my sister figure out a credit mess. You raised a solid one." I wanted to say I hadn't raised anything this sharp. I'd just tried not to get in his way, but I said, "Nah, thanks, he's something." Later that night, Miles asked if we could swing by the post office. He'd printed a one-pager called First Steps When Trust Breaks and wanted to send it to Dr. Keating to share with other families. We drove to the blue mailbox outside the grocery store. He got out, dropped the postcard in the slot, then just stood there under the streetlight with his hands in his hoodie, breathing like a kid who'd carried too much and finally set some of it down. I don't know if what we got counts as revenge. It felt quieter than that. Lena and Austin got exposed because they exposed themselves. Miles just turned the light on. We didn't get our old life back. And maybe that's a good thing. We got steadiness. A small apartment that fits. A truck that starts. A kid who knows how to protect himself without turning mean. Some nights I sit at the table and write checks that clear. And when it's quiet, I hear the soft tap of keys from down the hall. Not frantic, not secret, just the sound of a 12-year-old building, something that'll outlast what broke us.